CNBC-TV18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence.
Welcome back. To reiterate, we are stepping into our Silver Jubilee year, our 25th year, and we wanted to have the best of India Inc. with us. So joining me now is the Group CFO and Board Member at Larsen Toubro, Mr. R. Shankar Raman. Mr. Shankar Raman, thank you very much indeed for joining us on our big day. We would like to think that we are lucky because the global and the Indian news is also brimming with positivity. Let me start with the GDP number, which surprised hugely on the positive. It's not just the 7.6% GDP number. It was largely because manufacturing was 13.9% and construction, something that you would be interested in, has grown at 13.3%. So let me start there. You gave us a very good guidance in terms of your revenue growth. Do you think it is going to be even better than that, given this macro performance?
Thank you, Latha, for having me. And let me start by wishing CNBC-TV18 and all of you my heartiest congratulations. Entering into the 25th year is a big milestone, and I think sustainability, staying relevant, etc. has contributed. So credit to all of you who are part of that brand to have made the brand so enduring and dear to the viewers. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Now coming back to the question that you asked, I think it is no surprise that the construction contribution is picking up, because if you look at the orders that have got placed out over the last 2 years, ever since the government adopted the policy to be investment-led in terms of creating employment, making sure consumption demand revives on the back of that employment generation, it was but natural that with the lag of 1-2 years, construction will begin to pick up. Most of the projects that were awarded post-COVID are all in advanced stages of construction. And consequently, it is not surprising that their growth contribution is significant. We fortunately are in the thick of many of these important projects. And one of the reasons why during the discussions that we had post our half-yearly results was that we stuck our neck out and said that we are very likely to outperform our revenue projections that were put out as guidance at the beginning of the year. We had guided somewhere between 12 and 15%.
Yes.
And looking at the pace at which things were moving, we were reasonably confident that we could possibly exceed that guidance. By what order of magnitude could depend on so many other factors, because today, as we construct more and more, still clearances and approvals are part and parcel of that construction journey. Not everything is available to companies upfront for us to predict as to what kind of resources it has to deploy and how the revenues will map out. Now, for example, the poll in 4 states or 5 states actually put a temporary halt on some of the work that we were doing in those states. Now, we are also heading towards the national elections. So consequently, some interruptions are to be anticipated, which is what is making the whole job of predicting the exact percentage of growth over and above our guidance becomes tricky.
Okay.
We do believe that the year could go past, because our assessment is the elections could be mostly in maybe April.
Yeah.
Around the time when schools shut and that infrastructure is available as polling booths, etc., could be the ideal time, but one never knows. So consequently, depends on whether we have the entire 12 months or we have a portion of that chopped off, would determine the growth. But the momentum is robust.
Okay.
And I'm glad to tell you that the authorities, be it local authorities or central authorities, and the multilateral funding agencies are taking enormous interest to ensure that the cost of infrastructure that we are building stays competitive by arresting the time overrun. I think it's good that the system has recognized the cost overrun as a consequence of time overrun. So if you want to get the cost under control, we'll have to get the time under control. And that is also helping the industry's costs.
Yes, we saw your working capital to sales also move into a very healthy direction. Should you see more of that, since you say that everyone is now conscious of time overruns, more improvements in working capital to sales?
There is a natural cycle to the invoicing and collections. And given the fact that many of the projects are state or central government sponsored projects, there is a lead lag in collecting this money. My sense is that if we are able to operate working capital at about a 16 to 18% band of the revenues, I think we are doing a commendable job. There is always a possibility to keep improving because never say never for any such improvements. But it does look more practical to assume and operate at a 16-17% band rather than look at a 7-8% band.
Okay, fair enough. Let me come to the order book. I mean, you were always expected to better than that 10 to 12%. I mean, by a huge margin. But now you've lately announced a lot of big orders from the even more big orders from the Middle East. So you don't want to increase that order book guidance? Or even if you can tell me this, do you feel that you will, outperform by an even larger margin than you thought perhaps a couple of months back?
I know when we last spoke in October,
yes,
we did mention that we will outperform the guidance. If you really see, the first 2 months have been relatively quiet of the current quarter as compared to the past 2 months leading up to the end of the previous quarter. There is a certain volatility and fluctuations to this ordering momentum because of the processes involved. It is good that the order inflow is helped by some large orders from Middle East. But if you look at the pipeline of orders that are lined up, I think there is still some more distance to go before we can announce, complete outperformance to the order of magnitude that you possibly are hinting. We will have an opportunity every 90 days to revisit this. So end of this month, as we gather ourselves to see how the last quarter of the year looks, we will have an opportunity to see whether we can be a little more precise than what we are. But I do expect a certain slowdown in the last quarter. Run up to elections have always been indicative of that, because any orders that you give out now, invariably the execution will be carried under the supervision of the next government.
Yes.
Now, how far will the governments, the current incumbent government will sort of commit themselves to these programs is to be seen, because we've had history of some of the state governments cancelling projects that have been announced by the earlier governments for no rhyme or reason. And I think it has put a lot of construction industry into a big spin because of the resources that it had committed, etc. So even in the industry, we will possibly be a little cagey and slow of the orders that we win in Q4 before we really go full clip. So I think there is a certain natural headwind that will develop. So I think we'll have to factor for that as well.
I wanted, if you can update us on, the vertical of electrolysers and green hydrogen. That was the other thing Mr. Subramanian was very excited about. So any update on that and its future in the next 2 years?
Yeah, I think we realize the fact that energy transition is going to be a big play globally, and India cannot be left behind. And consequently, when we looked at the various opportunities for this transition, two things stood out. One is India needs to get more solar generation while waiting for solution for battery storage, etc. The solar generation needs to be augmented. So we started betting on solar projects. Fortunately for us, international orders also came our way. And since today we are fairly large with almost $6 billion worth of order backlog just in solar EPC projects. Secondly, we also looked at hydrogen as an emerging fuel source for industrial application, at least, because we yet do not know the cost competitiveness and the safety factors around its use for individual consumption. But at industrial application, automotive transportation purposes, it did look promising. So we said that we will get into that play by manufacturing electrolyzer, which is a key component for hydrogen generation. Fortunately for us, I think we scouted around and got a technology tie-up with McPhy Energy of France. Today, as we speak, the first electrolyzer is under construction. We are putting that together in our Asira plant. By end of this fiscal, we'll possibly have a prototype, and we could check that for its application, its features, its cost competitiveness, global attractiveness, etc. And if the product marks all this well, we'll possibly experiment it with a couple of hydrogen EPC projects, by which time we hope to get. And then if that does well, we will possibly take it as a global product. So there is an opportunity to scale this electrolyzer manufacturing activity. And we think, being the manufacturing experts that we are in some of these areas, we think we stand a good chance.
Okay.
The other area that actually excited us is putting together as a EPC package for hydrogen manufacturing. Fortunately for us, we struck a transaction with IOCL at an MOU basis. IOCL as well as Renew Power will provide the green power for the electrolyzer manufacturing. We will put up a plant which will generate hydrogen, which will be used for the refinery of IOCL. Okay. Depending on how this goes, this can be replicated in the other refineries of IOCL, as well as replicated in other refineries beyond IOCL.
Okay.
So this being, and this is more public sector led at the moment, but I'm sure the private sector, who consume a lot of industrial fuel, would also look at this, provided the solution is cost effective and functionalities meet their requirements. Okay. So we are pretty excited about application of this hydrogen through our EPC and electrolyzer manufacturing. Okay. Added to this excitement is our recent foray into semiconductors, because that's another area that we have been trying to explore as to what is it that we could do. We realized that our ability to compete with global giants on manufacturing fabs is going to be very limited. So consequently, we shifted our attention to design. And now we have put together a company, and we're in the process of assembling a team which will work on design, 40 nanometers and beyond in terms of the chips. Okay. And we will possibly co-create a design along with manufacturers, OEM. And hopefully, if the functionality tests are passed, we would design those chips using the talent pool that India is blessed with on chip designing.
Okay, now that's all the cutting edge areas that one would want the company to be in. Very good to hear. It's not surprising, therefore, that the L&T stock is at all-time highs. You're celebrating along with us. Thank you very much, Mr. Shankar Raman, for this conversation.
Thank you. Hopes precede actual performance. We hope we back it up with performance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Have to take a quick break, and thereafter it'll be time for Chartbusters.
I wish all the best for the CNBC-18 birthday on 7th December. It will be a very, I wish that it will be a very successful, grand success.